Good morning, everybody, and welcome to 4 Sunday Morning. I'm Elliot Rodriguez. We see the violence every night on television, and we wonder, how will it all end? Is there any hope at all for peace in the Middle East? The fighting, of course, is half a world away, but the deep divisions at the root of the problem are being felt right here in our own community. Those strong feelings became evident just a few days ago during a rally on Miami Beach. The event resulted in a face-off between supporters of Israel and the Palestinians. Let's begin with CBS 4's Mike Kirsch.
Miami Beach police weren't taking any chances. A SWAT team sniper post set up between Palestinian supporters on one side of the street and Israeli supporters on the other. Hundreds of angry people, where tempers on both sides quickly erupted into insults and some arrests.
Respect and we should support.
Miami Beach Mayor David Dermer announced his support for Israel.
And as Americans, we should understand and be fully supportive and fully back Israel in its defense of its nation and its people, and in defending us as well.
Palestinian supporters resented being contained inside a barricaded ring.
This is a prison just like the one we're running away from. This is the occupation.
In the middle of it all, a young Israeli supporter on one side of the street, a young Palestinian supporter on the other. Two young boys who might otherwise be schoolyard chums, torn apart by a Middle East conflict that reaches all the way to Miami. Miami Beach riot police were called in to keep the peace, while others prayed for it in the Middle East. There was no major outbreak of violence here.
Most of it was just shouting, and we did have some close encounters early on, but we made a couple of arrests, kind of sent the message out, and things kind of calmed down after that.
And joining us right now to talk about the crisis in the Middle East is Mickey Arbel, the Consul General of Israel for the state of Florida. We're also joined this morning by Nidal Sakur of the organization March for Justice. He's helped organize local rallies in support of the Palestinians. And gentlemen, thank you both very much for joining us this morning. As we saw by that demonstration the other day, very passionate, very passionate feelings, and of course everybody around the world watching the situation in the Middle East closely. Mr. Arbel, let me ask you first of all, the United States has appealed to the Israeli government, to Prime Minister Sharon, to end his military campaign in the West Bank, yet he continues. What end in sight do you see to the campaign right now in the West Bank?
Well, we're listening to the President of the United States asking us to stop the incursions, and we promise him that we will do so. We have nothing to do over there, but only to try to find out where all the terrorist cells are, and to try to curb them and to find them and to take them out of these places in order for political formula to be able to be formulated later on. But with terrorism, we cannot go on. Terrorism should be stopped before political movement is going on.
Now, nobody is in favor of terrorism, but when you see the scenes out of the Middle East, when you hear about the reported atrocities, when you hear that people cannot get food in and out because of Israel has cordoned off the area, isn't this working in the opposite? Isn't this having the opposite effect? Isn't this inciting more people to commit terrorism?
You're right. It's a very difficult task to tackle, because once you stop terrorist activities, you may cause some other people which suffer, and people do suffer because of this. But we have been left with no other choice. How can we live in Israel where terrorists every day and night are really threatening our daily life in Israel? How can any government allow terrorists to go around to do whatever they want and to continue with it? We've been left with no other choice. What has to be done is to convince the Palestinians, and President Bush has asked the Palestinians and indeed the Arab leaders to ask for the Palestinians to stop these terrorist activities in order for the political process to start.
Let me ask Mr. Sakir, why do you believe, why is it so difficult to stop the terrorism in the Middle East, and why is it so difficult in particular to get Yasser Arafat to come out strongly condemning suicide bombers and other acts of terrorism?
Well, to condemn terrorism actually is to condemn the state of Israel, to condemn the existence of the state of Israel that had no legitimacy whatsoever, and that was based only on genocide and disposition of the indigenous population. What we see today, and what's been going on for about 2 weeks or more, of attack against the entire humanity, against sacred places of all religions, against even our fellow Jewish Americans coming under attack for providing medical and humanitarian assistance to the Palestinians, makes the argument and the evidence and the proof and clears any illusion anybody might ever have that such state should have never existed to start with. The history of Israel is nothing but history of genocide, history of terrorism, history of displacement, and persecution of the entire population and the world community as well.
But what you're saying will lead to a continuation of violence if you're not accepting the fact that Israel has a right to exist as a nation.
If anybody who had any doubt about such an argument, I think Israel proved to the entire world that right never existed and should never exist. For what peace? We can never have peace as long as there is such thing called Israel.
Now, with that point of view, Mr. Arbel, do you think there's any hope in sight?
Unfortunately, it's very sad. It shows you again that Israel is not recognized, is not accepted as an entity, as a state in the region. In fact, it was the UN resolution which decided of the creation of the state of Israel with a very good reason. At the same time, there was a resolution to establish a Palestinian state at that time, but the Arabs didn't want and didn't accept it because they wanted to throw all the Jews to the sea. And this is the beginning of the problems of the going on now a conflict. But unfortunately, people should understand that what happened 2 years ago when Israel offered Yasser Arafat a very nice and gracious offer for an independent Palestinian. We are for independent Palestinians. We are for economically viable, culturally viable, independent Palestinians. But the Palestinian state next to Israel, not in